You may know me as No Sound Bites Allowed, Michael Voss. I'm happy to be here with you. I just got out of John Wick. It was about an hour and a half ago. I just got home. I've already put out a video of me walking from the movie theater, talking about my impressions 5 minutes after walking out the door of the theater, after seeing John Wick 4. You know, there's a lot I can say and can't say. Now, this is going to be no spoilers. It's a little bit of a review of what we got to see. And you may notice on the screen right now is my review from November 2022, when we first heard and saw the initial trailers for John Wick 4. I was very excited about that. It was very interesting. And all the trailers, I liked them all except for the one trailer with the rapish music background. I didn't like the music as much, but I like the action. I like the scenes. And so I was really looking forward to that. Even got the John Wick movies, I think it's Lionsgate, responded to my tweet. Didn't expect that. It was really great. So I was absolutely going to see this movie as soon as possible. And here it is. It's March 23rd, a day before the big release where it's going to be in all the theaters in IMAX. And I was able to see it today. It came out in my theater, the Regal Theaters. It's about the first time in 5 years that I've gone out to a movie theater to actually see a film. I just don't enjoy the movie theater experience. Too many commercials. You get in there and they give you like a half hour of just commercial after commercial after commercial. I hate that. I remember back in the day, they never had commercials. I'm old enough to remember they would just show you the trailers and then the movie. And in fact, if you came in late, you could stay in the movie theater and then they'd show the movie again. And so you could see everything up to whenever you walked in late. It was great. I like that. I wish movies were like that again. But nope, now it's you're in, you're out. They kick you out the theater. But what they do, they show you nothing but commercials that annoy the hell out of me. Can't stand it. And I wouldn't buy any of the products they put in the commercials just because they annoy me that much. But I went into the theater and I had a couple of concerns. I was worried about, okay, is the story going to make sense? Does it continue the story we've been watching in episodes 1, 2, and 3? Is it going to make sense? Is the action going to be as amped up, as pumped up as we have seen in all the other movies? Which my favorite is 2 of all the movies. So I wanted to see that kind of level. I wanted to hear that kind of musical experience that they like to give us. And I wanted to see how Keanu was going to keep up. I mean, the man is about 60. He's a couple of years older than me, much better shape. And I wanted to see, well, how is he going to react? Is he going to be able to keep up? Is this going to be the same guy we saw in the first movie? And we got answers to all of that, a lot of that. There's a couple of questions that we didn't get answers to, but one of the big things, all of the commercials, all of the ads that you've seen so far, all the ads, you saw the ads just like I did. All the trailers leading up and telling you, hey, this is John Wick, get ready. Some of the action, Winston was back. The Bowery King is back. He's in another nightclub. There's a lot of stuff here. And most of the things that you're going to see in the trailer, most of the trailers are about the first roughly 5 to 10 minutes of the entire movie. And this is a long movie. Let me let you know. It's about 2 hours and a half, 2 hours, 45 minutes, I believe it is. And you don't really notice it when you're in the theater. I didn't notice it when I was in the theater. There was almost, by the way, I should mention that since it's the 23rd, everyone's expecting to go see it on the 24th. A couple of friends I was going to bring with me, they couldn't go because they had to work. So the theater I went to in southern tier of New York, it's sold out. Several of the showings for John Wick are sold out. This thing is going to make money, no doubt. But I went today, and there was 4 people in the theater besides myself. That's only because, I went 5:30 on the day before when everyone thinks it's supposed to be out. So that explains that. But it's filling up quick, and it deserves it. Going back to the trailers. most of the things you've seen in the trailers are about the first 5 to 10 minutes of the movie. And it picks off almost immediately from, well, time has passed. So they do pick up John Wick is healthy. It's not immediately after the end of John Wick 3. So he's healthy, and we pick up from there, and he goes forward. You've seen that scene in the trailers with him hitting a board. That's the first thing you get to see. John Wick is healthy, time to go. And from there, John wastes no time moving forward. Now, one of the things that gets me about the movie is that even though we get a lot of new characters, we don't get a lot of the older characters that we've had before. There will be people that you do see, but some of the characters you may have seen in episodes 1, 2, and 3, they may not be in this movie, and you won't see them again. Obviously, notably, Halle Berry's character doesn't come back, and it is sad, and it needs to be mentioned that Mr. Lance Reddick, who played Charon, great character. Loved the way he acted. I love his speaking voice. It's really distinctive. He gives a kind of gravitas to the scenes that he's in. And almost everything I've seen him in, he's added a lot of gravitas and a greatness to the movies he's in. He's been an integral part of the John Wick series. And I am sorry that, in real life, Lance Reddick is now dead. He died early this week, just before the movie came out, and I feel bad about that. It's really sad, because we loved his character. I loved the way he portrayed it. I think in all the things I've seen him in, he's added gravitas. He's been a very good actor, and I give my condolences to his family and his friends, people who've known him, because it's sad to see that happen. And at the moment that this movie is so anticipated, and people would have loved to cheer him on the red carpet as he goes in and does the tour, but he died suddenly, and that's a shame. There are, and again, I'm not going to give spoilers on anything in the movie, but we do see these scenes, the fight scenes, are as good, if not better, than what we have seen in the trailers. So all of this works. I can say, all the fight scenes work. They make sense. You feel good about each and every one of them. I enjoyed them all. They were good fight scenes. They made sense. The bulletproof suits that they wear. He's not the only one who has them, which adds a layer of fight to it. So you can see the different levels of, the street thugs, street fighters who don't have that kind of special equipment. And then you have better fighters who do have it. And so they're harder to fight. That is in there. And it makes sense in the world of John Wick. It makes sense in the fight scenes of who he's going up against. So that works. There's more of a story to this movie than in the other films that we've seen. There's a more cohesive plot to this story, besides the action that is throughout the entire movie. So you will get the action that you've been expecting, but you're also going to get a story, a plot. It makes more sense than some of the other films that we've seen. They explain some of the things about above the table, below the table. What does that mean? The different families that are involved. It explains a bunch of that. And I kind of asked some of those questions, I think, back in November when I was first talking about this. Were we going to get this more fleshed out? Will it make more sense? The answer to that is yes. Yes, we do. And yes, it does. But because of that, it does change the story a bit. So it's not quite the story. How can I say? It's not quite the action, the flow that we've seen before. I think when I was talking about this, in my immediate reaction, I was trying to find the words. Definitive is the word that I used the most. This is a definitive story. This is a definitive chapter in John Wick and in that world. Absolutely. That's an appropriate word. And I would definitely say that if you haven't seen John Wick 1, 2, or 3, go watch them, then watch this film. I think it'll be much better for people who, if you've never seen the John Wick world, you've never seen any of the movies, you're not going to catch everything that's going on. It isn't going to make as much sense and be as interesting to you. But if you've seen 1, 2, 3, any of those movies or all of them like I have, it's going to make a lot of sense to you. And there are no gaps. It all makes sense to you. But if you haven't, there are parts of the film that are going to be kind of confusing to you. So that's good. So we're talking about some of the characters are coming back. Some of them are leaving in the movie, which makes sense for the world they're in. The time frame is about 6 months or so after the chapter 3. So John Wick is fully healed. That's in the trailers. I'm not spoiling anything with that. You see that. So that answers part of that. I'm a little upset because we don't get John Wick's dog. Dogs are integral. Don't hurt dogs. That's important. It is not a John Wick film unless someone is stupid about dogs. We all love our little puppies. I love my puppy. Dogs are integral. They're great. And of course, John Wick films don't exist without a dog in them. That is part of the story that you get to see. And in John Wick 4, yes, there's a little doggo. And he's a trooper. I love that puppy. He's a great dog. And, well, I won't say more about that. But there is a dog in John Wick 4. He is important to the story, like all the dogs have been. And so that's a great thing. They continued that theme throughout all of the movies, including this one, and that's great. Donnie Yen does a great job. His character is interesting. There's a reason why he's wearing the glasses, and they're dark. And I had kind of wondered that beforehand. I think there may have been some talk in the trailers or people talking about the trailers, making guesses about whether he can see or can't see. We get the definitive answer about that and also why. It's answered in one line, but it's definitive about why he can't, what's going on with his eyes. And they answer it in one line, which makes sense. If you've seen John Wick 3, you'll understand what's going on with that. So that's kind of interesting. And he's a good fighter. They show off Donnie Yen. Donnie Yen has great moves. He's a great martial artist. You have no doubt about that in this movie. It's not like some of the other movies, like I think it was Blade 3 or Blade 2, when they had Donnie Yen in there and he did nothing and then they killed off the character in Blade 2. That was horrible. They don't make that mistake in John Wick 4. Donnie Yen, his character is important. He makes sense. He has a motivation. It makes sense what his motivation is. And his character, his fight scenes, they pretty much make sense. He's a little bit, like everything in the movie, it's a little bit over the top. It's a little bit beyond the norm, but it works. He works in almost every single scene that he's in, that his character is believable, and he's just fluid as hell, and he's in excellent shape, and he makes the fight scenes work. So I'm happy with that. So his character does a great job. And I won't say more. Oh yeah, the black guy. And then we've got the black guy. I don't know his name. You won't know his name. There's a reason for that. So just call him the black guy because he's a black guy. I thought he was African when I first saw the movie, when I saw the trailers. He's not. He seems to be American. But he's an interesting character. He's a good introduction to the John Wick world. I was afraid at first that they were marching down the diversity, equity, inclusion mandates of Hollywood and that his character wouldn't make sense. I had the same fear in John Wick 3 with Halle Berry and her character, that they were just including her because she's a woman and, star power, but she wouldn't be a good fit. They made her work. Her character worked in that storyline, and it made sense in the John Wick world. Well, the same thing I can say about this character. And I'm afraid I don't know the actor's name. I'm not looking it up right now. But his character makes sense in the John Wick world. They fit him in seamlessly. It's not just a diversity hire. It's not just about equity. His character has a purpose. He makes sense. He fits into the mythos, and it works. I like him. And he has a good character. He has a couple of really good scenes that I thought that kind of work for what's going on in this story. So he did a good job. I like him. And you get to understand the gear that he's wearing. It all makes sense. So that was cool too. I like that. He's not just some random guy. You get to understand. So he has some good scenes. And again, some of these scenes are from the very beginning of the movie. And like I said, it may not make sense. Some of these scenes may not make sense. I'll give you an example. Like this, if you're not seeing John Wick 3, this may not make as much sense to you as someone who's already seen the chapters. But if you've seen 3, it makes perfect sense. It fits in. There's a lot of good scenes, like everything that they got going on in Paris. You know, they don't do as much. They do globe-trotting around the world. They do. A lot of it is focused in Paris. I've been to Paris. Some great scenes. They did some great on-location shots. Now, I'm not a fan of Paris, but that's just me. Or France, I should say. Paris, the architecture is nice, but not a big fan. But it works. It looks really well done. Some great visuals throughout the film that look really beautiful. I mean, they really got some beautiful things that they caught. See, there's that little doggo. There's the puppy. There's the puppy. Love the puppies. Gotta love the puppies. So a lot of this stuff makes sense and works in the story, works in the movie. So we've talked about things that I was concerned about. Is Donnie Yen getting good usage? Yes. Bill Skarsgård. He's in this as well. Matter of fact, let me see if I can find him. Japan, Osaka, loved that set. That whole part of the storyline came off great. I think this is Mr. Wanatanabe. Wanatanabe, I think is his name. He's a great actor. He comes off really well. And his character and the setting and why he's there and what he's doing came off very nicely. I thought they used him well. He was a good character. Here it is, Skarsgård, Bill Skarsgård, right here on the, well, to the right for me. Yeah, it should be on the right for you as well. They do a decent job with his character. You know, he's obviously the big bad, and yeah, he fits to be the big bad. Mind you, everybody in this movie is gray. He comes off as a bad guy. It works. I liked him. He's a decent bad guy. He's not the best bad guy, but he's a good bad guy. He makes sense. Again, I liked 2 better than I like this. The bad guy in 2 I thought was stronger, more interesting than this movie, but he fulfills that role pretty well. His character is pretty much the scum that you think he is, and he shows himself clearly. He's consistent in his character and his characterization, and I think the acting is done well in portraying him. I think Bill Skarsgård did a good job of being that bad guy. I was never really afraid of him, you know, as him being the bad guy. He's super scary. No, not quite. We've gotten that better from some of the other villains in the series, but he does a good job of capturing that guy in charge, bad guy with a plan. So he does a good job with that. Again, I'm trying to avoid giving you spoilers about the film, but I'm trying to give you some of the impression. So that's all there, but it's not the movie you think it is. I don't know how to explain this better. When I saw this at first, I was thinking that this was going to be like the second movie in the chapter, or maybe a little bit like Chapter 3. It's very different than what you're expecting. I tried to explain it when I was talking about this in my immediate reaction. The film will leave you satisfied. It will give you a good feeling. You'll enjoy the time that you're there. The time will go by quickly. You get more of an understanding. I know a lot of people didn't quite understand the world, the rules of it. It will make sense to just about anyone. But it gives you this other quality, this other sensation that I got anyway, because it's not exactly it's not pulse pounding. Like if you see episode 1 in the nightclub, if you see episode 2 in the museum, there's a different pulse pounding intensity, which you kind of get. And in one scene in the film, which I'm not going to show you directly, again, no spoilers, but they pull off this one series of scenes. I think they call it no cut. I forget the word right now, but it's seamless. You're following the action, you're following the movie, and they don't cut away. They do that like 3 times in the film. Each one is about 2 minutes long. 2-minute long sequences without any cuts, just following the action as it's going along. It's kind of like a video game. It's kind of like a God's Eye. It's great. I loved it. It was really cool to see it. They played that off so well. You can follow all the action. You can understand what's going on with the bad guys, with John Wick, why they're doing things, where they are. It works. And you just get to see it seamlessly playing through. It must have been hell to time that out. I don't know how many times they had to do that sequence over and over again, or if they used camera tricks to actually do cuts in between so that they could do each section of it. I don't know how they did it, but it was really well done. I was really impressed that it was just one straight shot through. Looked great. Again, there are so many elements to this film that are so very good. But it's a slower pace. It's more plot. It's more characterization. You get answers to questions that you might have had. Like, there's a couple of things that I thought were probably true from even episode 1. They're going back and answering things that you might have been wondering since the very first John Wick movie about, why does this character do this? Why is that character doing that? What's the connection on these people? What's their goal? Everyone has an end goal. Everyone has their own motivation throughout the film, and you get to see them, and it makes sense for their characters. They do a good job of tying it all the way through, answering certain things, and if you're not paying attention, you may not hear it because there's a lot of single lines that they'll say that answers something that you may have been wondering about in movie 1, 2, 3, that you may have been wondering about, and they answer it in like one line, and it just tells you, okay, and that's why that's happened. That's why they've been doing that. That's what that's about. They explain it, and then you're with them, and you keep going. So keep an eye out for the little things, little answers, almost like Easter eggs, but they're not. Just answering things that you may have been wondering about, and I thought it was great. The visuals, again, are beautiful. Really, really beautiful. They have some wonderful scenes throughout the entire movie, not just the action, but just the cinematography, just capturing the various moods, the various locations. They're all very distinct. They're very much rooted in whatever place they are, whether it's Japan or Paris. You are rooted, when they're in the Middle East, you're rooted into that feeling, that area. And they do a great job of the landscape and the lighting. They really do a great job of that. So you will not be disappointed by that, even though it's not any kind of sci-fi or it doesn't go anything crazy like that. You don't need a lot of CGI. I'm sure there's some in the film, but it's not big and heavy on CGI. Keanu is doing his own stunts. You see that clearly over and over again. So he's involved in the action. So that's good too. That all works. If there's maybe one thing that kind of disappointed me throughout the entire film, it would be the music. If anything, John Wick is known for very stylized music, very club-style music, very motivational music that really gets you going. And they kind of have that. In fact, they do a couple of scenes where the music does an homage to music that we've heard before in the series, and it kind of brings it back. Kind of John Wick's theme comes back to us from episode 1, is kind of played again for us in chapter 4, but not in the same way, not with the same intensity, not with the same volume, obviously showing a difference in John himself. And that's important. So we get that because things are different now. They're not like they were in John Wick 1. His motivation isn't the same as his motivation in 1. It's kind of continuing that, but it's not the same. And you hear that in the music. And it didn't work for me in all the scenes, to be honest. The music, I thought, was somewhat of a letdown. I'll go back and listen to the entire soundtrack of Chapter 1, the entire soundtrack of Chapter 2, parts and certain songs in Chapter 3. Chapter 4, no, I wasn't like, ooh, I love that song. It's so perfect for this moment. It fills it in for me. I wasn't really feeling it. Mind you, the music it wasn't garish. It wasn't outstanding. It didn't take me out of the scene or make me feel like, oh crap, why are they playing that? What's that about? No, it made sense. It just wasn't memorable. It wasn't impacting me the way that songs and music previously had been. And they try to make it diegetic, which means that they try and make it natural for some of the reasons why we hear the music is actually happening in the John Wick world, in the movie, and there's a reason why we can hear it. It's playing on a radio, you're in a nightclub, you're at an event. So they try to do that, and they do that here in 4 as well. It's just the music, the choices, I don't know, they make sense for the movie, but I just didn't like it. I just didn't feel it. So that kind of took away from the movie for me. Now, the sound was fine. Sound editing was doing a great job. The gunshots are all crisp, and I maybe would have wanted them a little bit louder, but they're distinct, they're crisp, they match what you're seeing on the scene. It works for it. So they've done a good job with all the sound editing as well. The clothing design, fantastic. Everyone has their distinct style. It's very, a lot of callbacks in some of the clothing, the styles that people wear. In fact, now that I think about it, there's a lot of callbacks in Chapter 4 to all the other previous movies, whether it's in terms of the music or in terms of locations, some of the scenery that we see, the clothing that people are wearing, some of the descriptions or some of the language, the discussion about various things throughout the movie are very much a callback to either characters or locations, feelings, or something distinctive throughout. John Wick's dog, and this is maybe a minor spoiler, so let me say that again. This might be considered a minor spoiler for some people. His dog from Chapter 3, what happened? I was a little upset about that. Where's that doggo? Yes, we get a doggo in this film, and it's great to have the puppy, and I'm happy to see puppies, but that wasn't John Wick's puppy. Where's John Wick's puppy? I'm a little upset about that. But he's not hurt, as far as we can tell, as far as we know. He's not hurt, but that's another thing altogether. So, going through all that, let me just wrap it up. Did I enjoy John Wick 4? Yes. Would I see it again? Yes, I'd even go back to a theater and pay and go through the stupid commercials and the stupid ads that they have. I would go through all of that again to see John Wick 4 again in a theater. Would I buy a DVD? I think so. I'd complete my collection. This fits with the collection. I'm happy with that. Am I satisfied with the world, the universe of John Wick? Yes, I am. It's just enough fleshing out of certain things, but leaving other things alone and not, they're not retroactively changing things. They're not retconning things. Did I walk away from the movie satisfied? Yes, but it wasn't in the same way that I was satisfied with episodes 1, 2, and lesser so to 3. And I would say that this is on par. If you enjoyed John Wick 3, you'll enjoy John Wick 4. Actually, you'll enjoy 4 more than you enjoyed 3, I think. I think so. So I think the movies would be how I would rank the movies: John Wick Chapter 2, John Wick Chapter 1, Chapter 4, and then Chapter 3, in that order. I think that's the way they break down. Individual scenes may be better or worse in each of those movies, but as the movie as a whole, I think the best one was the second. Then came the first movie. Then the movie that's just coming out now. And then the third movie is the last. It's the least of them all, in my opinion, the way it feels. Not doing as much globetrotting in Chapter 4, but that's okay because we don't need to. Not as much. It's more self-contained. It's more to the point. And that's something I think that you can sum up. John Wick 4 is much more to the point. It's much more driven by the plot than the action. The action's there. It's not just filler. It makes sense. But it's definitely a lot more to the point. It's a lot more definitive. As opposed to the other movies where things were more open and a little bit more mystery. Not quite mystery box mystery. Thank God they don't go J.J. Abrams on you. And they definitely don't do Rian Johnson on you. It's not James Gunn. Chad Stahelski, who's the director, a former stuntman, did a great job. I think he's continuing to do good work. I think you'll enjoy this. I would say go out and see it. One last thing I want to bring in, a little bit of a bonus. When I was in the theater, they had the trailers, of course, for various movies. There's a trailer of a film that's going to be come up. I think it's pronounced as Sisu. I'm not sure. It's a Finnish word. And it's a character. It's taking place in Finland. And it's also in that John Wick style of movie. It's about World War II. It's got a bit of a old Western kind of feel to it, but it's in a World War II setting. It's in Finland, which makes me think back, or at least the setting that it's in, makes me think back to The Good, the Bad, the Ugly, kind of. So it's got elements of that in it. It's definitely an action film in the same style of a John Wick style of film. I believe it has the same. I think Chad Stahelski did that one as well. So I'm looking forward to it. I think that'll be a good film. I don't know if I'll go to theaters to see that one as well. This is to give you an idea of the scenery. Guy finds gold. Essentially, this is all from the trailer. The guy finds gold. He's super rich, and he's got to go 563 miles to the next town to actually cash in his gold. And so this is what gives you that Wild West feel. And I thought, in fact, when I first saw it, I thought it was a Western film. But in fact, nope, it's World War II. But it's a great, I like the style. And it makes me think a lot of John Wick 1 in the way that it's done. I like the cinematography. I like the way they did that. It sounds like it's going to be a good film. And if you like John Wick, the series, I think you'll like this as well. Again, I think it's pronounced Sifu. It's Finnish, but it's not subtitled. It's an American film. It's in English, so you can go see it. I do recommend that. And if you're watching John Wick, you may see trailers for this film. And I would say that's something to put on your radar. You may want to see that as well. All right, I've talked enough. I think it was kind of interesting. I look forward to hearing when you go see John Wick this weekend. Did it work for you? Did it make sense? How would you rate the films? Which one's the best John Wick film? And where does 4 fit into the entire series? Do you want to see more John Wick films or films like John Wick or in the world of John Wick? Are you looking forward to seeing the TV show The Continental? I want to hear your thoughts. And I'll probably in a week talk about the spoiler. I have a theory about John Wick 4. I have a theory, there's a spoiler in the film, and I want to talk about that with you because I have a theory about it. I don't want to spoil anything. I don't want to talk about it now, but when you see the film, you will know that there's a question, a big question, not a mystery box, not a J.J. Abrams kind of mystery box, not some kind of cliffhanger, but there's a mystery there, a question that's there, and I think I have an answer for it. It's my head canon, and I want to hear what yours is, and we'll talk about that, let's say in a week, after everyone's had a chance to see the film first. I think it's going to make a lot of money. This movie should make all its money back and more. So it's going to be a success. I think the word of mouth is going to carry it forward. Don't forget, I think I mentioned it earlier, there is an after credits scene. It's very short. It's very short. But after all the credits, there's this little blip of a scene that comes out, and it'll show you what's going on. It makes sense in the story. It actually, you were wondering at the end of the movie, you're going, hey, but what about that one thing, that big thread you've been dangling in front of us? It's got to have some kind of payoff. We kind of get an answer to that. So that's another thing. Stick around to the end. You'll see the end scene. It's very short. It's like 30 seconds, but it pays off a thread that was early in the film. So again, this has been Michael Voss. You know me from No Sound Bites Allowed, talking about politics. Well, this is my other channel, talking about movies, entertainment, video games, mostly, anime sometimes. And I hope you enjoyed it. I look forward to hearing what you have to say.